be there. Then we have a big golf tournament afternoon with a lot of sponsors and some of our members, and you all will be invited to that. You'll hear a lot more about that in the future, but it's something that I've done for 15 years and is tremendously successful. We'll complete 4 brokerage presentations. I've already done 2 of those to Kessinger Hunter and Zimmer, and we'll schedule 2 more here soon. Provide community tours for our partners, and I've already done 2, but we'll do lots of those throughout the year. Provide individual community tours for brokers. Participate with the Kansas City Power and Light Community Partners program. I mentioned that they paid for half of our website. They have training for us. They also are doing drone videos of sites, which we will utilize them for. And they've already given me the okay to do that in Gardner. They pay for half of that. We'll participate with the Kansas City Area Development Council in 5 consultant and industry marketing missions. We'll attend the International Council of Shopping Centers convention here in a couple of weeks, which is the largest gathering of retail decision makers in the world. Our PIO meetings, which I mentioned, there'll be 7 of those at least this year. And highlight available site and buildings on social media. We'll do that at least 10 times this year. Now to the funding. This is how it stands now. And I wanted to share that JCAC is obviously Johnson County Airport Commission. They're the largest funder. They actually started the organization. They also put in over $45,000 for us to use for marketing that is for the airport, but it also helps me pay Krista, who's doing all kinds of work. It helps pay for our website, which has value for the airport, but has value for everybody. And then they provide all the overhead, our office, our equipment, our computers, our telephone, and administrative assistant to some extent. And so a very large investment on their part. Gardner this year, 2015, is under contract for $35,000 investment. Edgerton's $35,000, and Kansas City Power and Light in cash and in kind was $11,250 this year. And then our other member, the 80 members I showed you, is about $75,000 this year. Last year Gardner was $25,000. I think a couple of years before that, $25,000. At one time it was up to $50,000, and then it came down. And what I am asking for 2016 is a complete raise across the board. I think it's appropriate for what we're trying to do. We are totally overhauling our economic development program. It's time for us to compete with Shawnee and Olathe and Johnson and Overland Park, and to do the things that I put in that plan. Everything's more expensive now, and the time is right, and to be successful, I think this is what we have to do, and we're asking everybody, including our members, to chip in to help do that. And what we're going to get for the funding request when we go up, I think I've told you all who Krista Claus is. Right now I've got her for 5 to 8 hours a week, which isn't very much. And she is outstanding with our communication. She's writing copy for website. She's good with the business retention and expansion. The key, everybody knows her from being on the radio every morning, so it's a lot easier for her to get into a business than somebody they don't know. It's like meeting with a celebrity, and we had actual numbers up in Clay County that showed that. And then maintaining professional staff. It's real important for us to have a consistency in who our group is that's leading the economic development efforts, and we need to keep those folks here. And then increase the business recruitment efforts. I went through that. What I have found working in Kansas is the Department of Commerce is not bringing us the leads that I think they should. And they just don't have the money to do it. They've cut back. They don't have the personnel, and so we need to do that ourselves. I have the relationships to do that. I'll leverage KCADC. I've been doing it a long time, and we need to do more of that, and I've got an actual calendar that I have put together for a plan to do that. I mentioned the drone videos of available sites and buildings. Though that's the newest thing. It's what everybody's putting on their website. They're really cool, and it's such a valuable service to our customers that are looking to locate here. And then one of the things we learned from Janet 80 the other day is don't have your executives working on membership all the time. Do you remember that, Chris? And I feel like, and I know Chip talks about Tom's time, it seems like they were always spending too much time chasing members and getting them to renew and picking up checks and selling and private meetings with them all the time. So So we need to add some support staff, whether it's part-time or full-time, that helps with our database, helps with our membership, helps with that research, and then helps with keep the website up to date every day. And so the result's going to be a world-class economic development corporation that competes and wins versus much stronger funded neighboring organizations and strengthens the perception of a strong business-oriented community. And that's what I intend to do with this plan. Any questions?
What's the current cost for a membership for your individual companies?
The lowest right now is $400, but we're considering raising that.
For 2016, it's going to be 400, or?
No, right now it's 400.
Okay, and then what's the high end? I guess you have a stair step or two.
Well, there is. It goes, and again, we're just a week or two away from proposing to our board of changes, but it goes 400, 600, 1,500, 2,500, 3,500 on up, and there's just a few over 3,500.
And are you the only full-time person?
Yes.
And what's the percentage of the budget that goes towards salary for Southwest Johnson County EDC?
Oh, it is not quite a third.
Not quite a third?
Yeah, I don't know the exact answer. I'd have to go back and figure that.
Okay. And then, I'm sorry if
We'll get everybody in.
Sure. Your website traffic, what kind of numbers are you guys getting a month? I mean, I have,
It's low right now because I don't want anybody going to it, frankly.
I understand. What has been in the past then, I guess, if
I don't
might
know.
ask? I mean, have you tracked how many, because you say you're going to link to Gardner's
Yeah.
website, how many times have we sent stuff over to Gardner from you guys' website?
In the past, I don't know the answer to
Okay.
that. And with economic development websites, you're not going to get big numbers.
I
but-
understand.
Yeah, and but it's the important
But there'd be
ones.
one or two that would be.
It could be the biggest deal that
I
ever
got
happened.
two more, and then
Okay,
I checked your Facebook page, you have 109 likes.
yeah, we got to get
And
more.
most of those are people I know.
Yeah.
So I can tell you they're not gonna be spending millions of dollars. And I don't know how much social media can play into getting stuff here.
Plays in a lot, and how we're going to boost that up, as we do these profiles and stories about local businesses, I will boost them.
Okay.
What's called a boost.
I know.
You know what that is? Okay.
I mark it.
And that will bring in a lot more.
I can tell you, that's not a guarantee.
Well, but
Spend a lot of money on that.
Well, it's a cheap way to do it, and I've done it before up in Clay County, and it'll go up, and they're not always, you don't know who it is.
Sure.
But it's then people that'll see things and they'll share, and so it's one avenue that's really pretty inexpensive to market us.
All right, I'll let everybody else go.
Did you have something?
Sure. Just one thing I noted on here, and you kind of addressed this to some degree on the metrics,
Mhm.
doing them annually. I'd probably like to see them maybe quarterly.
Yeah,
if possible, yeah.
and coming here and talking to you, is that?
Yeah, and
That's what I would prefer to do.
too as well.
Yep. But you'll have at the end of the year, then you'll have that annual report that you can see what it went, but yeah, I'd like to keep, what I didn't want to do was a report monthly for the whole board when we have, these two on our executive board and they're hearing those updates. It's just one more thing, but if I could come talk to you in person quarterly,
Yeah.
I think that'd be, so we can discuss questions.
Greg, thanks for the comments and the presentation, appreciate it. I've got a couple of questions here, and Rich stole my thunder on a couple, so I'll just skip those. It says here, Southwest Johnson County EDC represents Gardner. But you also represent Edgerton and Youth Century and unincorporated Johnson County businesses.
Right.
Your priority one bullet point says that you're gonna be representing Gardner. But I mean, that's...
For this presentation.
But that's hard to quantify because, again, when you look at the distribution of development, projects and other initiatives that Southwest Johnson County EDC has been in front of,
Mhm.
I would say the majority of those have been outside of Gardner. Am I correct in that assumption? And I
Yes.
understand why,
Yep.
because
Mhm.
a lot of them are large industrial projects which are not, conducive to being developed within city limits.
I'll tell you the largest number of inquiries that we've gotten are things that we don't want.
Certainly.
And I've kind of discouraged them.
Certainly, so large warehouses or?
No, actually, people are wanting 5 acres to store vehicles or trailers or
Okay.
module offices or, 44 acres of truck repair and storage and
Sure.
that's the kind of things that, or grain containers on the airport, which draw birds that hit planes and.
Certainly, well, thank you.
So, I mean, if I can, I'm not sure I answered. I'm representing when we get an inquiry, they'll have specific information, and I'll go through and see, okay, what best fits, or what fits at all in Southwest Johnson County for the needs of this prospect.
Mhm.
And there may be 2 sites in Gardner, and 1 site in Edgerton, and maybe nothing at the airport, and the next time it may be, and then you let them, you present that to them, and then let them decide where they want to go from there.
Certainly, but really, in your capacity, you are representing the interests of all of your membership, which is
Yes,
including,
yes.
as I said, all of Southwest Johnson County, Gardner, Edgerton,
Yes.
and unincorporated Johnson County areas that may or may not annex to one or the other community or not annex at all.
Yes.
Priority 2, meeting annually with every industrial company in Gardner. Could you please define that? I mean, is industrial company does that include Walmart? Does that include?
No, they are not, they're retail.
Yeah, so CenturyLink and all these other
Yeah,
office
CenturyLink,
complexes?
CenturyLink would be one. It's what I really wanted to identify is there are some very small, the chamber's gonna be doing some of that, mostly for the retail. I think he's gonna talk about that. And there'll be a little bit of overlap there, but
Sure.
but I'm specifically identifying the people that manufacture something, and CenturyLink's a different, I mean, they're one big, huge company, and they go into that list, obviously. But, I want to meet with you on your company, because I've heard you talk in meetings about how you need help, and I don't.
I'm not big enough to worry about.
Well, but there are those out there, and so that's the kind of things we're trying to identify, that
So-
maybe we don't know is out there.
So small businesses, the
They'll be small, they'll be-
manufacturing concerns
yeah.
and logistics concerns.
Because our expertise is helping manufacturers grow.
Sure.
In retail, it's much more difficult to do that.
Okay,
And we
that's
focus on
fair. I just needed to get an answer for
Yeah.
that. Overhaul and maintain the website. You're saying that probably within the next year, you're gonna have that completed.
No, within the next weeks. It's
Within
a
the
couple
next
of weeks away.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, what's the timeline on this, because.
Yeah, it's real close. It's just been a tremendously difficult effort, but, we had to write the copy for it, and
Sure.
we couldn't cut and paste because it was all old information, and so it's been difficult.
Some
But we're
significant
close.
research.
It's
Yeah.
really close, and you'll be proud of it.
Now, representing Gardner and, I'm assuming all of Southwest Johnson County, on the Siri board, I'm familiar with Siri,
Mhm.
and I know that all their products are basically, they're subscription-based, and they can cost some
Yes.
significant dollars. I'm assuming that is, again, being spread out evenly across all the member
Yeah,
organizations.
yes, we pay for that from
cities.
Southwest Johnson County EDC.
And we will have access to all that data.
Yep, and already, as I get the monthly reports, I forward them directly to Cheryl.
Okay, great.
And there's a lot of other data there that we're purchasing to put on our website.
Okay. This is really more of a question for our own staff as well as yourself, Greg. We're members of the KCADC directly as the city of Gardner, okay? We're also paying a portion of Southwest Johnson County EDC's membership in KCADC as well. Does it make sense to pay for both? And before we answer that question, I guess that kind of goes toward our long-term goal. All right, our long-term goal is to become much more involved in the front end with development opportunities. So, I mean, is that a question that you could answer, Cheryl? So I know that under your administration, we've kind of moved in that direction to foster direct relationships with KCADC.
And I think we've gotten some real benefit from building the relationships that we've built with them. They've really been helpful as we try to put together our economic development incentive policy. We have also been able to get some of the secretaries, like Department of Commerce,
Mhm.
some of that through those relationships. So clearly it's kind of a council policy decision of where we end up ultimately with the city. But we have had some benefit from having that relationship.
All right, now, does it make sense to have an overlapping you know, relationship with KCADC, given the fact that Southwest Johnson County EDC focuses more on the manufacturing and distribution type of things, and we would be focusing in a different direction.
On a broader
potentially.
perspective.
Like retail, large retail, or mixed use, or those kind of developments.
Right, we definitely, I don't think we want to limit our opportunities here. I think that for us, particularly since we have so much green space, undeveloped land, we want to be looking very broad at our economic development opportunities.
Okay. I'm looking at the numbers, the total numbers, and you're looking for almost a 21% increase in funding across the board. And I saw that the only entity that's not going to be paying more is going to be KCP&L. My understanding is because of the fact they're doing a lot of in-kind work, primarily the drone work, correct?
In the website.
And the website.
Yep.
So they're actually helping to front the website.
They pay for half of it.
Okay.
Which,
All right.
yeah, about $8,000.
Okay, all right. And I think that Rich had talked about what the current percentage of the budget is personnel. He said somewhere between 30 and 30,000.
I'll have
somewhere sort of.
I'm going to get back to you on that. I don't
Okay.
know exactly what that is.
All right, and the new number is going to be 343.5. And we'll probably want to know what percentage of that's also going to be personnel, because I hear a lot of personnel augmentation going on. You know,
Well,
having a professional staff and understanding, you know, Krista's involvement.
Yeah.
I just like to be able to get
Sure.
a better understanding, a handle on that.
Yeah, it'd be Krista up to at least part-time.
Yeah.
She works on a contract basis, and then perhaps getting someone in that can help us with that daily data dumping that we needed,
Sure.
that we've kind of lacked in the past.
Okay.
It's so critical.
If I could have
Absolutely.
information on that, or
Yeah.
if the council could have some
Sure.
information on that breakdown, that'd be really helpful.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate
Yep,
it. That's all I
sure.
have.
Thank you.
Hi, Greg. I just have a couple of questions. On all of these different studies that you have, which I know, I think, Cheryl, you may have copies of most of them, can we get those distributed to council? And then can we also know the cost that you pay
Yeah.
for each of those?
Mhm.
I was looking at the financials and I couldn't find them broken out. So if you could, for each one, what the cost for,
Okay.
to the EDC.
Yeah.
And then, the other thing that, and maybe this is just a product of your quarterly updates, but one thing that we've talked about in the past, and I think is one of the most critical things, is that reactive data, I don't know how else to put it, but as you receive inquiries and as somebody decides to not come to Gardner, basically, I would like a readout of why. Is it there's nothing available that meets their needs? Is it what? And that's something that I think we've been desperately lacking in the past. So if we could formalize something around that, and I know some of that's confidential, but there has to be a way
Yes.
that can be communicated.
We don't always know, and a lot of times things just won't happen, period, anywhere.
Right.
And they just, you do all the work and they just go away. That's, almost probably more than 80% of the projects we get in. But when we do know, and it'll be something that we've kind of been significantly involved in, where they'll make a decision and then we'll be able to find out, well, it just, the site was too expensive, or this other community had an existing building. But that's critical for us to figure out what we need to do. Okay, if we're getting killed because we don't have 50,000 square foot buildings and we've lost 3 projects to that, then maybe we need to find somebody to build 50,000 square foot buildings.
Right. Yes, okay,
So, absolutely.
thank you.
Lee?
Well, most of my thunder's already been spoken.
Sorry.
So all I have left really is to question you on the annual report and exactly what would be the contents of an annual report. I've got your 2014 one pulled up right now, and to be quite frank with you, there's not a lot of information here.
Agreed.
I mean, there's no financials or anything like that, so I'm just kind of curious what your idea of.
It'll have much more information in it. And you saw, as I listed, that's why I kind of wanted to put in there on those metrics. It'll be in the annual report, and everything we've discussed. It'll be a much broader document.
Okay, that's all I have.
Again, that was before my time, so we'll upgrade that immensely.
I do have one more. What was the last thing that Southwest Johnson County EDC brought to Gardner?
Well, It depends on what you mean by brought. It's,
You tell me.
well, it's always a team. We're never gonna bring you something. It's gonna be a team that, it's gonna come from KCADC, or it's gonna be a call direct, and it's gonna be a team of us that work to bring it here. I know Quick Trip came last year, I know Coleman was a big project.
I called Quick Trip, they said they picked their own places.
Well, and they do to some, but they have, I've worked with them on probably 20 projects, and they need help, or they need calls, or who do I need to talk to, and you kinda help them through the process, but I don't tell Quick Trip where they're gonna go and I don't tell Walgreens where they're gonna put a store, but we'll provide them information. I talked about the demographics and providing them, going beyond the demographics that they can get, or they have programs already that they use, to here's where the growth is. We have 150 new houses gonna be built over here and 200 over here. We've got a big growth spurt going on here, Jeremy, at Quick Trip, you need to look at this. And so that's how I do it. And it just very rarely is it gonna be something that the Southwest Johnson County or any local ED said, we brought to you and we did it alone. It just doesn't happen. But we'll have a big part of it, and we'll do better than some others and trying to make those happen. And there's a lot of intangibles that go into that.
Okay.
It's a,
I'm just thinking that Coleman and Quick Trip, and there's a $25,000 or $50,000 in there a lot of years for those two things. It's just my thought process. And then now $55,000 on.
That's one way to look at it. There's lots of different ways to look at the value of, and we listed a lot of them right there in those metrics that we're already providing, so. But we need to do better. I'm not,
I
do
know, I
better.
understand.
That's why
I'm
we
cutting
have
you
this
some
plan.
slack, 'cause you're the
We
new
got, that's
guy.
why we have this new plan, we're
Right.
we're overhauling everything.
Trust me, if you were the old guy, it was
We gotta do
going in a
better.
totally different direction.
Gotta do better. Understand. Anything else?
Frank, thank you very much.
Yep.
We appreciate you coming this evening. Okay, presentation item number 5 is, Gardner Edgerton, newly renamed, Gardner Edgerton Chamber of Commerce Budget Request for 2016. Jason Camus, good evening.
Good evening.
Good to see you.
Are all the tough questions gone? Because I have the tough presentation.
Well, I can tell you that the tough questions are gonna start from this side.
All right. You get to have the thunder this time.
Go this way this time.
Excellent, excellent. Well, my name's Jason Camus, and I'm the president of the Gardner Edgerton Chamber of Commerce, and, much like Greg, this is my first opportunity really in front of you. I've come and I've met all the council members, and, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't, I was told I wasn't supposed to introduce my board. They didn't want to be introduced, but since Greg did it, I'm going to do the exact same. So, I have Tim Miller here from American Family Insurance. Please, come on, Tim, stand up, show us who you are. I have Alyssa Petrick from Alliant Photography. I have Jim Cohenauer from Patriots Bank. And I believe that is what I have this evening. So, you know, my presentation is going to be probably a little different, and a little bit the same. I can't talk as much about maybe the grandiose plans I have yet, because I'm still doing a little bit of cleanup. But as part of this, I'm going to be very transparent about what we've done, where we've been, and maybe where I see us going. I encourage this to be somewhat of a dialogue, so I really do want the questions, and you know, if you have them during the middle, please ask me as I'm going, because you know, I know you'll write them down, but if you have that thought right then. Highlights. So I wanted to start off, just tell you what we've been doing, and I've been here for about 6 months now, and you know, every day is something new. I find some good things, and I find some things that probably could use to be improved, and sometimes I can do those right away, other times I have to kind of set them off to the side and prioritize. So the big stuff, though, is first off, we have our tax status back. We received that back probably within the last month, retroactively to 2014, and for those of you who didn't know, we lost our tax status as a 501c6 last year due to just not filing our tax returns. Relatively simple thing to fix, but it took a long time. It took over a year, and a lot of tax returns to be done. But I'm happy to say we've got that back, and we're moving forward. We've also, for those, if you don't know, we also administer the A.S. Reese Scholarship Fund, and we have administered that since, I believe, 1979, so 30, 40 years. We also lost our tax exempt status on that. We believe we'll get retroactively reinstated. We have filed that. It took a little bit longer to do that one, and we're in process. We're still awarding money. And the thing I wanna offer is that there was no wrongdoing on either of those. It was simply oversight that should have never happened. And so we're putting some policies and procedures in place to make sure that doesn't happen again. We have filed our taxes, as I said, moving backwards. We're working on updating our database. Our database, we actually have a very robust back-end system, probably one of the best in the chamber industry. And we were one of the first in the chamber world to actually use that database based on our ID number, but we've never really kept it up. And a little later, I'm going to tell you why that matters to you and why that matters to the community. We've been spending a lot of time analyzing our internal operations, the things that we've done well, the things that maybe we need to improve on, everything from how our board operates, how our board goes through orientation, the type of board meetings we have, what we're discussing, and so on. And these are all going to be ongoing processes that we'll be looking at. I've been meeting with existing businesses. That's probably been the biggest one, and it takes the longest time. I fully admit I love the chat. So what I think might be a 30-minute conversation might turn into an hour and a half. But I've met with over 100 businesses in the first 6 months, probably many more in just informal conversations, and many of them have been multiple visits. And I've gleaned a lot of good information, both about the chamber and the chamber's role in the community, but also just about their business. And when I say 100 businesses, those aren't all members. A lot of those are non-members because we service the non-member business community just as much as we do the member businesses. I'm happy to say we've grown. We've added, I believe, 14 new members, 15, I have an application that will be coming in tomorrow morning, since January 1st. That's exciting because last year, in the entire year, we only had 7 new members. So we've doubled our number from last year, and I think that will only continue to grow over the course of the year. The last thing is we've changed our name. And that's been an interesting, I know we probably have changed our name a lot of times when we come up and talk in front of you each year, but we have settled on the Gardner-Edgerton Chamber of Commerce. You know, when we went through to change from the Gardner Area Chamber of Commerce to Southwest Johnson County Chamber of Commerce, I think the thought process was right. I think the board had the right thought process. We do represent more than just Gardner. We do serve Edgerton and New Century Airport. However, I think maybe it was just done a little premature without being out and talking to the community, talking to the businesses that we serve. Ultimately, the two communities we serve are Gardner and Edgerton. While New Century, you know, it has a huge significance for our community, it is not a community. It is a zip code or a branded industrial park or whatever you want to call it with a lot of jobs, and a lot of those people live here. But if you ask many of them out there, they'll tell you they don't identify with Gardner, they don't identify with Olathe, they just identify that they work out there. And some of them will say either one. So we settled on the Gardner-Edgerton Chamber of Commerce. We're in the process of a branding. We don't have a lot of money. You know, last year was the first year that the chamber did not have to take out, in the last couple of years, did not have to take out a line of credit at the end of the year. And we ended the year with some money in the bank, but we're being very cautious this year because we want to build on that to be able to do some of the things that we should be doing. So we are rebranding right now. I'm hopeful by the end of the month I'll have new logos and some of that. It's not the process I would have liked us to go through, but it's the process that we'll go through at this time, and will continue to move us forward. As I've been out talking to the businesses, the things that I've heard, first and foremost, are the chamber needs to be responsive. We have a history of not necessarily responding to situations, to businesses, to community initiatives, maybe in a expedient manner or in any manner. And that's one of the things that I'm focused on is we'll be responsive. It might not always be what you like, and there might be things we have to say, you know what, we don't have the time, or I don't have the time, because I am the one staff person right now, the full-time staff person. We're going to be resourceful. We have not typically taken full advantage of all the resources that exist out there for our business community. Johnson County alone has hundreds of business support systems and networks, and they provide a lot of free and low-cost and high-cost resources for the business community that we've really never shared. And I think our business community might want to take advantage of some of those, and so we'll be doing that. Also, throughout the chamber world, I have a pretty significant network, much like anybody would in any industry, and It affords me the opportunity to find out what things are working in other chambers and what things are working in other communities and how they serve their businesses. Third, we're going to be hospitable. We are often the first place that people call in the community. An example in my letter, I mentioned that I took well over 100 calls just for the citywide garage sale. And they came all the way up through Thursday last week. So while it might not seem like a big deal, that's a lot of people coming to our community and needing a first impression, and that's a good thing. And so we often are that. Just today alone, I had 3 new people walk in, wanted either a phone book or something moving to Gardner. And that's pretty much an everyday occurrence. We're going to be inclusive. We are, there's a lot of times a mindset about a Chamber of Commerce that the Chamber only serves its members. And while we provide a value for our members and a package of value for our members, and we'll continue to enhance that, as I said, we serve the entire business community. There are benefits to what we do that will benefit everybody, whether you're a Chamber member or not. My hope is that a business would want to belong to the Chamber because they see that additional benefit. But if not, we'll continue to serve them in certain ways and provide additional value for our members. Along with that, chambers have historically been conveners. It's kind of, when you talk about the history of chambers, there really were people, it was a group of businesses that came together in different communities to serve different purposes. Some built bridges, some built schools, some provided business resources. They did all sorts of things over the history of Chambers of Commerce, and we have to find what that niche is for our community. We're going to be transparent. I'm not going to hide behind anything. Sometimes I know that I might say things that my board might cringe and they might want to forget some of the struggles that we've gone through, but I don't see any reason in hiding it. It's out there. We're moving forward, and I'm happy to address any of the issues that we have encountered. We're going to start advancing in technology and be a little more entrepreneurial. The day of the Chamber of Commerce being your grandpa's Chamber of Commerce is long gone. That won't work in today's world. It won't work with today's business owners and today's employees. We have to find ways to meet employees and businesses where they want to be met, and not just say, hey, this is what we're going to do for you, and this is, we've always had this coffee. You know what? If our coffees aren't well attended, we're going to stop having coffees. We're going to do something else. We're going to find a different program or a different service to help our membership. And we're eventually going to become visionary and somewhat strategic. Of course, I was excited. I'm probably the one person in the room who's excited about Greg's because I see the vision and stuff like that. I wish I could be at that point right now. We're not there yet. But I'm excited because we will have a strategic planning session for our board in the fall. And we're going to start taking a look at 1- and 3-year goals and that type of direction for the Chamber. And I think that's the way we need to go. Moving forward, some of the things, I talked about, we build relationships. A lot of what we do is somewhat intangible. It's connecting businesses with resources. I can quantify that, I can qualify that, I can do a lot of different things. But the connections is really what the Chamber is all about. We're able to bring people together, connect the business community with residents. We do that a lot, obviously, through new resident bags, through a website, through a community profile directory, all those types of services. But we also connect businesses with each other, and sometimes we connect businesses with elected officials. We host candidate forums. We try to find ways to connect them within the greater Johnson County area or in the state of Kansas. We're going to be the champion for businesses. That's something I've heard a lot. I've asked a lot of businesses, like, we have a lot of good stuff that happens in this community. And one of the things that comes up, I'm like, so what do you do when you have something really good? Rich, you hit your first $1 million. I don't know, you're probably $10 million. But, you hit your first $1 million as a business. Who are you telling? And a lot of them are like, there's not really. Well, we want to be that entity, whether you're a member or not. Again, we want to bless that. We want to tell people and celebrate business in the community. Just because you're in business doesn't mean, and it's serious, doesn't mean it can't be fun and we can't celebrate what the things that we're doing. We're going to deliver value, and we have to do that. And I'm the first to tell you, if a Chamber member says, hey, I've got no value, I'm not going to sit there and twist their arm that they need to be a part. I believe we can find value for pretty much 98% of the businesses. There's probably a few we can't find any value for, but I think if I get an opportunity to sit down with most business owners, we can find a pain point that we can help alleviate. And last, we're going to be a voice for business, and that you know, that could be, it could be lobbying, not lobbying, but it could be being an advocate for certain issues, providing information. We're not gonna probably be taking position issues or stands on various, topics, but it could be just providing information so businesses know where to go to learn more about it. When something, whether it's city council's looking at some new legislative action that might affect the business community, or our state legislature is doing that, we have to find ways to make those things happen. What we do for the city specifically, because that's probably what matters the most. As I said, we're the first point of contact for residents and for visitors in many cases. We fulfill a lot of visitor and new resident information, to the tune of probably 1,000 new resident bags a year between Gardner and Edgerton, and in those we put information for the Gardner business community. For the Edgerton really doesn't have as big a business community in that sense that they distribute information in there. And we provide that out to our residents, the people who are going to live here, the people who are shopping here, eating here, and so forth. We have a website, not anything I'm proud of. It was great back in the day, and it's time for it to be overhauled. And we're in the process of that. As soon as our branding's done, we're moving forward into our website. Ours won't be done in a few weeks like the EDC, but probably within 3 to 4 months we'll have ours done. We already have a vision and all that kind of lined out, but we have to take the steps to get there. Community newsletter. I've been playing around with the different forms of community news and how we push information out specifically about the business community, and that will be partly through our own means, through email, through maybe some social media, through the newspaper, possibly, you know, through other entities in town as we find available. We provide a ton of apartment and real estate. I print apartment and real estate brochures once a month. I print 30 or 40, and they get mailed out, they get picked up. People looking for a new place to live, some coming from out of town, some just moving within town. We produce a citywide map, and we've done that over the years, and we will continue to do that. That's something that's very popular that we distribute. And the last thing is something that is somewhat visionary, but we will do next year, is we're going to produce a community profile and relocation guide. It's something that most chambers of commerce do in their communities. It's something I think is missing here. It will be less membership directed. There'll still be a little portion of that in there, but more of that piece that people will hand to somebody when somebody's looking at coming to our community. This could be something that the EDC uses. It'll be something that the city uses when a new employee moves to town. It could be something when a big company moves to town that we produce 400 of them so that they can give out to all their employees. The second thing we do is we're starting to involve ourselves more in workforce development. That's something that we hear from our employers that they need more of. I don't know exactly what that will look like at this point. It partly is figuring out who is involved in workforce development, what the companies are actually needing and what they're saying they need, and finding ways to connect employees with employers. A simple one might be hosting job fairs on behalf of our employers in the future. The third is a business resource center. One of the things you'll see coming out, I was hoping to have it out already, but it'll come out later this week, is new newsletter we're going to have coming out probably about once a month, called Business Matters, and it will be basically tips and hints for how businesses can help improve their business. I know not everybody can afford a 3-hour webinar or can go to a workshop or a training or even one of our lunch and learns when we start rolling those back out, but every business in town should be on Google and should have claimed their Google listing and should understand what that means to their business. And if they don't, we can help with that. And it's a very simple process. And I'll tell you right now, by looks of it, 80% of our businesses have no clue, or they have just a partial clue. And so I think our job is to help them improve in that. We will have a comprehensive community business database, and that's something that we are we're perfectly positioned to be a central point for all the business information in the community. And so our database is, like I said, is really robust, has a lot of features, a lot of functionality. It just needs to be cleaned up. So we've been doing that. That's an ongoing process. You'll be able to search. A lot of the people call, and I'll find out information, I'll put it in there. Sometimes I don't have it. I might go out to the CFG Facebook page to find information about a business. Sometimes I call somebody down the street who's been here for 40 years, and because some of the questions are really obscure that we get at the Chamber of Commerce, and, and so it's knowing where those resources are so we can help people, help meet those needs. We'll continue to share.
Going to CFG is probably not the best place to.
Probably not, but you'd be surprised. I mean, I have gotten some good information out there, at least for people who, hey, here's a contact person who's this business. So, we'll move through that. And then, in the business retention and expansion, Greg talked a little bit about at the industrial and the manufacturing level, at the larger employers. That's what we do at the smaller level. We're talking to businesses, we're talking to business owners, we're asking them what are their pain points, what are the things they need, and we're finding ways to connect them. Simple example, one of the local doctors here in town is looking to market their business. I was able to connect them no, not Todd. I was able to connect them with three entities here in town that were looking for his types of services to come and present. And it just happened, I caught one in a meeting, and a week later, the other one said it. I'm like, oh my gosh, and I hooked the two of them up. And that's the type of thing. And it's also beyond our community, because some of the businesses here want to expand outside of the community, and that makes them stronger, and brings more money into our community, and so we'll be doing the same thing. We do tourism marketing. That we've done, Gardner has done that piecemeal over time. My background is, I actually have a master's, I'm one of the few people probably in the world who's got a master's degree in tourism. And I was a CVB director back in the day, and I know, Rich is probably smiling, he's like, what are tourists coming to Gardner for?
No, I was just thinking, what is the qualifications like for your, when you're writing your thesis? You just get on a plane and go travel around?
That would have been a great one. I would have liked that one. But what I'll tell you is, tourism here, we're not Disney World. People aren't coming here for that. But you know what? The largest market for tourism in any community is what's called VFR. It's visiting friends and relatives. And that's what people are coming here. They're coming here to see all of you. And we have to find ways to reach them, because they're the ones who are spending money in our community. They're impacting our sales taxes. They're impacting a lot of other things. And so those are the things that we have to find ways, and there are ways to measure some of that impact, and there are ways to encourage some of it. And so we'll continue to do that. There are some groups out there that do some general marketing of the Kansas City metro area. There's a group recently that Jeff has attended called Sports Kansas, that's about promoting, that has been formed to promote sports tournaments, which obviously are a big money maker for a lot of communities, bring a lot of people into hotels, a lot of people eating at restaurants and so forth. We're obviously going to keep getting feedback systematically from businesses. We're going to continue to assist with city initiatives. Comprehensive plan, we were involved with that, even with a board member last year without staff. Land development code is one that's going on right now, and I think that's a huge one, because one of the biggest complaints I hear from businesses, and and city staff and I have talked about this, is signage. Everybody's got to complain about signage, and we know that there's good signage and there's bad signage and there's a lot in between, and no one really has a clue as to what that signage is supposed to look like and what I can do and what I can't do. Well, we hear from businesses all the time, and so now I have that opportunity to be involved with that and to share some of that feedback with city staff and kind of be that liaison. Another one that I think will hopefully be interesting is downtown business owners. That has been something there used to be a downtown merchants group, and I don't want to say we're resurrecting that, but we are working with some downtown business owners to get that group back together. We don't know what it will look like, we don't know what they will do, but I do know that when you bring a group together like that, usually good things will happen. And so that could be some new initiatives, it could be some downtown development, it could be informing council when you guys are looking at a downtown development plan and actually having information from the downtown business owners rather than trying to guess at what people actually want to see. And we're also going to look at some community calendar ability on, the organizations have been recently meeting, talking about doing community calendar, and that's something we're going to look at for our website and maybe being able to facilitate that here in the community, because I think our website will have that capability for all of our nonprofit organizations in the community. And we'll continue to do some event support and coordination, things like the candidates forums, if the city desires our help with State of the City address, those types of special events. If we were looking at some special events, I have a meeting coming up here with somebody who's looking at doing a special event here in the next couple of years. so forth. So those are kind of the things that we do for the city. You know, today, I'm here, we didn't ask for an increase this year. We need it. I'm not gonna lie. We are at $20,000. We were at $20,000 last year. However, I'm not prepared, and I told Cheryl when I met with Cheryl that, I don't have a plan. You know, I have some of the vision but I still have enough stuff that I have to clean up for the next 6 months or kind of improve that, you know, I know this is something that if we feel strong about it, we'll come back to you next year and we'll ask for, maybe an adjustment. Our funds come a little differently because they come out of the however it's called, the Economic Development Fund, which is primarily funded through transient guest tax. My intent would be to come and visit with you quarterly and just kind of hear what you want to say and what you want to know about the business community, and even if there's some kind of feedback you'd like to hear quarterly, you know, that type of thing, I think that would be good. So I'll leave it at that and offer up any questions.
Questions? Lee?
Yeah, you're gonna have to forgive me, because I'm new here.
Me too.
Lived in Gardner for 10 years, and I can tell you that I've been aware that there's a Chamber of Commerce since I got here. Been in contact with the Chamber of Commerce all of 0 times. And I know I'm not alone. I've talked to my neighbors. None of them over on Dogwood know anything about the Chamber of Commerce, or what it does for them, in return for their tax dollars. So, what I would ask from you is, what can you say to those guys, you know, my neighbors and Rich's neighbors and everybody else's neighbors for that matter, that live in Gardner, typically work elsewhere. I work in Olathe myself, so I spend 10 hours a day in Olathe, a couple hours a day here, and the weekends here. So, what's the value in this for us?
Did you get gas this weekend here in town?
Yes.
Did you eat out somewhere in the last week?
Right, but I paid
But-
for those things.
You're right, but those businesses would not necessarily be as successful if they didn't have the services of a Chamber of Commerce. And, you know, and like I'll go back to, we can't necessarily pinpoint every specific business in every specific instance, but if I connect that doctor with 3 new lines of business that potentially adds 20 customers versus him deciding, you know what, I just can't make it here, I'm gonna move my business up the road to Olathe. That right there, we just made that impact. The Chamber's been here for 40 years, was founded in 1975. I have files galore, believe it or not, in the basement. And I would tell you that we have probably touched 80% of the businesses in the community at some point in our history. And, you know, for the most part, even the ones, there are a few that don't like us. There are a few that probably just have this idea that one of the misnomers about Chambers is we are part of something else. We're not affiliated necessarily with the Kansas Chamber of Commerce or the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. We are an independent nonprofit organization formed by, you know, here in the community for the community. And ultimately, if you want to talk about, the Johnson County Fair Parade, guess who runs it? The Chamber of Commerce. Let's see, what else? The fireworks. We did the fireworks for, I don't know how many years. I'd have to look back at my people. Several years. So there's a community aspect to what the Chamber has done, and I'll be the first to tell you, we have not told storyly. We have not told anybody what we do. An example, that profile guide I talked about, you know, in a lot of communities, they do those, and the Chamber reaps it's financially advantageous for the Chamber. However, I'm considering a one-time actual mail of that to all of our residents, because I think our residents don't necessarily know the businesses that all exist in the community. And I hear it all the time. I have people walk in the door, I had no clue. Gardner Pharmacy has served our community for 25 years under Stacy and Sam, and I don't know how many more, and they don't know that there's a soda fountain in there. You know, I've had, you guys got a soda fountain? I'm like, yeah, it's been there for 20-some years. I don't know how many years, 10 years, 20 years. So I think part of that is us just doing a better job of telling the story of what we do, and we have to find ways to do that.
So you charge membership fees, and you accept funds from the city.
Correct.
I presume, Edgerton pays as well.
They do, a small portion.
What other sources of fundraising do you have?
We have a couple events that make money. We have one fundraiser in the fall that's a sporting clay shoot. That's probably that's what I would consider a fundraiser. We do make some money off of our annual dinner, but I will tell you that the purpose of our annual dinner is not to be a fundraiser, it's to celebrate and bring businesses together. So if we make a couple $1,000s off of that, and that's pretty much it. Our membership dues carry a pretty significant chunk, and then we have the city's contribution, and then some small things that we might have made $1,000 from here or so forth in the past.
One business owner in particular talked to me about the chamber during the campaign and mentioned that he thought that this chamber was a real bargain in terms of membership. What are your plans?
Oh, that's great. Let's raise the dues. I mean, that's what I'm hearing.
What are your plans to raise the
Well,
dues?
I'll tell you, I inherited the due structure, so I'm still I actually spent Tuesday last week with a consultant, free, because I'm all about trying to pull things off, you know, I'm using my network while I can. But I spent some time talking about tiered dues, and so we have really two dues rates, which is kind of unusual. And they changed it up a few years ago to make it a little more simple, but probably maybe missed a few spots. So we charge $300 for a small business, which is up to 49 employees, and then if you have 50 or more, maybe it's 50, and if you have 50 or more, it's $700. So it's just that, and then the banks are right in the middle at $500. So I can tell you that's somewhat odd compared to most chambers. And then we have some businesses who are sponsors, and they sponsor our largest contributors. We have a couple businesses, we have 3 that are between $4,000 and $5,000. And they are sponsors, they get additional things and throughout the year. So what we'll be doing for next year is moving to more of a tiered dues structure, where it might, randomly off the top of my head, it might be 3, 6, 12, and negotiated, if you want to call it that, or off a menu where they want certain services and so forth. And really what that does is it allows businesses, every level would have a suite of services, and it allows businesses to come in at what services they actually want. And I think that's the appropriate thing, rather than just saying, well, you know, by an employee account, this is how much you got to pay, even if you don't take any advantage of what we do. And then sometimes the ones who have 2 employees take the most services, and they're only paying $300.
I'll pass it on.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, I guess the only thing that I would ask, and it kind of goes to Lee's point a little bit, but from a little bit different perspective in that, I think, and you and I have talked about this, I think it's critical that we hear from business owners whenever we can in forums like this, the value that they feel, that they get from the chamber, because I believe that the chamber does support businesses, it does support growth, and that the residents benefit from that, but I think hearing that story from people that are directly impacted is something that we've been missing, unless, I mean, I talk to people, Tim or whoever, and you can get that, but I think more formalizing that is something that I would ask for in the future.
Is there, and Chrissy, the one question I would ask, is there something specific you want to hear, other than, you know, Tim or Jim or Alyssa coming in and saying, well, we value it? I mean, is there something that you feel like that businesses need to be saying to quantify what that is, or to qualify what that is?
No, maybe it's more about when you get to services part, what examples of how you've helped. I mean, you talked about the doctor, so more specific examples about that type of stuff, because there's things I'm hoping in the future that other chambers do that are more visible in the community, wine downtown, you know, something that's chamber sponsored. But there's all this stuff that goes on behind the scenes, that I think if we could get examples of those brought forward, that would be beneficial.
Okay.
Steve, anything?
Yeah, I've got a few things. Jason, first of all, thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate your standing in the gap here. I know that it's been a tough time for the chamber for the last couple of years, and you've done a real yeoman's work in trying to get to the bottom of some of this stuff and get you guys back on your feet. So
Thanks.
I do appreciate that effort. I really do. And I want nothing more than to see a vibrant, successful Gardner Edgerton Chamber of Commerce, because without that, it makes it difficult for us to be able to tell, the businesses side of the story as to how great of a community Gardner is. So
Mhm.
I see that value. I almost think of Gardner Edgerton Chamber of Commerce as almost kind of the business's version of a welcome wagon.
Mhm.
It really is, it's for attraction and retention. You want to be able to create a family of businesses in the community that support each other and help to make the community a better place to do business in. So that speaks towards our mission of being open for business.
Definitely.
Having said that, there's a couple of things regarding the financial issues that I would like to clear up.
Okay.
I don't know if you have these answers or if you could find these answers for us before we have our vote, but I just needed to get these addressed. I know that we're back on, we've got our forms for legal status reinstated.
Correct.
So are we listed as Gardner Edgerton Chamber of Commerce, or is that a fictitious name that we've added to the?
No, we will continue. We actually were never even the Gardner Area Chamber of Commerce. We have always legally been the Gardner Chamber of Commerce Incorporated, and we will keep that incorporated name for the time being until the board decides, hey, we've got the time and the money and the interest in changing that. But legally, we are listed as the Gardner Chamber of Commerce Incorporated. We will be doing business as the Gardner Edgerton Chamber of Commerce from here
Okay,
forward.
so are you going to be adding that as a fictitious name on the nonprofit?
We do not, nonprofits in Kansas, to my knowledge, do not have, there's no DBA in that sense. That's why we've operated under many names
Yes.
for a long time. And so, like I said, nobody even really knew that we were, until they were obviously going through all the tax stuff, that we've always just been the Gardner Chamber of Commerce Incorporated.
Okay, all right, that's fair. I've done some investigation, and
Mhm.
I know that there's been some loans. I'm not gonna call these improprieties. I think there might have been a mismanagement or some irregularities, but back in 2008, I think there were some loans that were made to former directors
Mhm.
of the chamber.
Yep.
There was a notice on your Schedule L for 2008 that there was still a balance left in default.
Mhm.
Has there been, do we know what the dispensation of that is, or?
Yep.
Has that been completely repaid, or?
It is not. We have entered a financial agreement. We accept payments on a monthly basis. This has just come about in the last couple months.
Okay.
And our hope is that we will continue down that road until that loan has been repaid.
Okay, but there is a full intention that we will be whole on that. Again,
At this point, yes.
I just want to make sure that for the consumption of the folks on this dais, as well as the people who may be watching this, that we are moving towards a position where we have full financial accountability on all past obligations.
That is our intent.
Okay, because I don't know if I'd be able to authorize an additional expenditure to the chamber until that's been rectified.
Mhm.
Okay. Chamber membership, you talked about you had 14 new businesses so far in 2015, 7 in 2014. Is that primarily through outreach on your part to these businesses to, invite?
No, it's
or
not,
even
not at all.
Unsolicited?
That's unsolicited. Those are, majority of them, I mean, obviously I have an interaction with them. Usually, my belief is businesses will do some marketing over time.
Sure.
Up to this point, one, I haven't had the time, and two, I don't want to sell a bill of goods that we can't deliver. And so the businesses that have joined have typically approached us, or they've heard good things from other people about the turnaround. And a couple, I would say one or two, have come back to the chamber, or maybe they had some affiliation with the chamber over the time. I don't know when they might have been members. And have just said, you know what, we want to be a part of it. We believe it's moving in the right direction. We like the change and the progress, and have come to us. And I've probably met with another dozen or so that have said they will join.
Okay.
At what point, I don't know. We follow up with them once a month. I'm not calling them every day to get them, but when they're ready, they'll know, and they'll take that effort and go from there.
Can I make the assumption that your churn rate in terms of your loss of members has slowed or halted?
Yeah, the best I can tell, being completely honest, the best I can tell, and again, I'm going to go to, our records weren't perfect, and for the last 5 years. Best I can tell, we might have lost 50% of our members over a 5-year period. Now, part of that's probably from, not being a good chamber. Part of that's from the economy And, you know, most chambers around the country saw a loss in membership from 2007 to 2009. Some continue to see it after that. That's the best I can tell. At some point, when we have all of our ducks in a row, or the house in order, we will be reaching out to, we'll probably do some type of an outreach campaign to old members first,
Sure.
before we even go to new businesses. Because not only, in my mind, not only are they believed in the chamber once,